Hi, this is Steve, and welcome back to Prepping in Progress.
And this is Kim.
Today, we're going to let Miss Kim take us through some things. If you'll look at any recent SHTF scenario in any country, or even your own personal one that you're prepping for, you will find a few constants. If you look at Egypt during the last regime change, if you'll look at Venezuela, if you'll even look at Greece, the finances and the financial markets and the financial stability of the country has been shaken up or gone completely by the wayside. So today, Kim is going to take us through financial prepping according to Kim.
All right, just as a disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. I am a machinist and a welder. So these are all just from my own personal experience of us working our way out of debt and working towards savings and how that has really improved our preps. So whether we're talking about a financial crisis similar to what we saw in 2009, Great Depression back in the 1930s, or your own personal SHTF situation where you have a job loss or a reduction in hours or something where you're struggling financially. Having your finances in order and being out of debt is an essential part to prepping. Now, I see a lot of people, they think that buying the latest gear and running up credit card debt and saying, well, if it all balloon goes up, then all the banks are going to come crashing down and it won't matter how much I owe on my credit cards. And history proves that wrong a lot of times. Yes, probably in an EMP event, we probably won't have anybody calling you for creditors for not paying your credit card bills. But in a financial disaster, or like I said, if you just have a job loss, those creditors will come knocking and it will hurt your prepping if you don't have a car anymore, if you don't have a house anymore, if you're in a heaps amount of debt and you don't have good credit anymore. It could really hurt you as a prepper.
And if you can't pay the property tax on your bug out location, congratulations.
You lost that.
It's gone. You know, it's been possessed or taken over by our friendly revenuers.
Yeah. And so I wanted to bring it up as an important part of prepping that I don't hear people talking about very often, but it's something that's near and dear to my heart. When we got together, we were both in quite a bit of debt, and we worked together in order to pull ourselves out of that to the point where we're almost pretty much out of debt. We've still got a few things that we're working on slowly, but we're not nearly where we were a few years ago. But I wanted to give you some tips and some ideas on what we did to help ourselves get out of debt and what you can do to, once you're out of debt, how it can help your preps.
Okay, guys, so 80% of Americans are in some form of debt. The most common form of debt is car payment and credit card payment. So why don't you take us through a couple of ways to get rid of those, or at least lower the payments?
Well, we've used both of these methods, and these aren't my methods. These are, you can find these online. A lot of people talk about the different methods of reducing your debt. But these are two that I've personally used at different times. The first one is the most common one that people talk about. It's called the snowball. It's called the debt snowball. And so that's the easiest way to explain it is you take your smallest debt, whether that's a $200 credit card bill or something like that, where you've got your absolute smallest debt that you're making payments on, get it paid off while making just minimum payments on the larger stuff, and then move that like a snowball up to the very next thing. You're already used to not having that money, and so just move it up to the next debt, the next highest. Say it's a $400 credit card payment or total. Work on getting that one paid off while still maintaining the minimum payments on your other cards or cars or house or whatever. So you start with your smallest one first, and then you roll it over one after the next. And we've used this method quite a few times when we were getting ourselves paid off. We both had a bunch of little small credit cards that, from store cards like a Stage or JCPenney's or something like that, where you put a few $100s here, a few $100s there, and you're making $50 payments here, $50 payments there, and you're spreading yourself out and still paying interest on all of that. So it's easier to focus on the smallest one first, get it completely paid off, take that payment and move it to the next one, get that one paid off, and it snowballs till you're working your way up. We're currently working our way up from credit card debt to actually paying off all of our vehicles, and taking all the money that we were paying on credit cards and making extra payments on our vehicles to get that paid off in time. The second method, it's not as satisfactory. People like to see, with the snowball effect, to see debt going away very quickly. The second method is if you're worried about interest and how much you're paying in the long term. It's called the debt avalanche. And with this one, you start with the largest interest rate. And it doesn't matter if it's the largest balance or not, but it's the biggest interest rate. So your credit card that may have $1,000 on it and has the largest interest rates, that's really hitting your budget and you're not being able to pay it down very quickly. But say your little credit card that only has $200 has a very small interest rate and it's not hurting you as much, and you want to focus solely on the largest interest rate credit card first and get that one paid off and done with. That way you can focus on the next highest interest rate, and that way you're not paying as much in interest over the longest period of time. Unlike the snowball, where you're still paying the larger interest off in the distance, but getting more results quicker. This one is a little bit long view as compared to the snowball, but the avalanche will definitely, you won't pay as much in the long term.
Gotcha.
So if you're worried about high interest rates and things like that in the long run, the avalanche might work for you. But if you like seeing debt go away and just marking one, I love seeing that. Like, this one's done, now on to the next. This one's done, on to the next. I liked that satisfaction. So I've used both of these methods to help pay down our debt. The first one, when I was working on mine, my personal debt, when we first got together, I had just a bunch, like I said, a bunch of small credit cards out there where, somebody would offer a credit card, I'd go spend a little bit on it, and then I would slowly pay it off, but I'd have that in a bunch of different places. And I would lose track, I'd forget, and it was terrible for my credit. And so personally, for my own personal debt that I had, I started with just the smallest one, paid it off completely, put that card aside, didn't get into it again, and I wasn't going to touch any of them again until all my debt was paid off. On to the next one, paid it off, set it aside. And that was very satisfactory to me, of knowing this one's done, this one's done. Now when we came after Steve's debt, it was a little bit different because he had one that was a high balance and a very high interest. And he was making extra payments and he was working really hard to get it paid off. But the interest was so high that we weren't really making a dent in it until we just solely focused on it. I got an offer for a balance transfer, so we were able to take some of the pressure off of it with that, with a 0% interest on a balance transfer, which was wonderful. So we didn't have to pay any more interest on at least a portion of that. And then we were able to really focus on that high interest debt and get it completely paid off. And then we were able to shift to the balance that we transferred that still had no interest on it and pay that down. So we went after the highest interest rate one first and then went after the other one. No matter which one was the higher balance, it was the highest interest rate we were trying to get rid of. Hopefully that makes sense.
Well, and keep in mind that when you transferred a portion of the high interest out, the minimum payment went down,
Way down.
because there was no more interest and there was no more
Yeah.
high balance. So the same payments that we were making on
We're more effective.
were more effective.
Yeah.
And then with both of us working on that, which I never really wanted you to do, that was my pre-existing debt, and I never wanted to burden the family with it.
But we're a team.
We're a team.
Boom, and now it's gone. It took us, and I'd hate to put your dirty laundry out on the front porch. It took us about 6 months to pay off $9,000 worth of debt, just on his personal. That's not including the debt that I paid off previously on mine. I know. Everybody hates debt, and everybody hates the numbers, but we all have that. We all have that kind of baggage that we're bringing in. And so to get rid of that is really important as preppers, because that's money we could be using elsewhere. I know we've been able to increase our preps because we don't have to worry about those credit card payments anymore. And here soon we're not going to worry about vehicle payments, which gives us even more money to go out and get beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. But that's the whole point, is freeing up your money so that way you're not beholden to the banks and things like that, to all your paychecks are going to paying off debt. Okay, the next subject is going to be budgeting. In order so you don't get into the situations where you're having to put large unexpected expenses on credit cards. Because that's where a lot of people get into problems at, is, you get large credit card debt because, not because you're going out and going crazy and having fun, it's the car broke down, somebody's got hospital bills, unexpected expenses. I think I heard a statistic that most Americans right now cannot write a $500 check for an unexpected expense, which is, it's scary to think that something, which a lot of things cost $500. I know we've had, dental appointments like crazy this month, getting my son's teeth fixed. That was a lot of money. Even with insurance, it was really a lot out of pocket. We've had where our vehicles have broken down. We've had vehicle crashes that were not covered by insurance, and it came out of pocket. And so
I advocated full coverage and not going to liability only.
No matter who's at fault. It was still an out-of-pocket expense.
It was like, the police officer said
No,
wasn't my fault. It wasn't my
track.
fault.
Budgeting, and making
Vehicular failure. Lower ball joint.
Okay.
Poof.
We're never
gone.
going to get this done.
Tire sideways. Not my fault.
We're never going to get this done. Hush. Budgets. The point is, unexpected things happen. And things come out of the blue, like a deer or anything else, that may not be covered by your insurance. That one was covered. I know.
Thank you.
But unexpected things happen.
He was suicidal.
And so, making sure that you get your debt paid off will leave you freed up to be able to put more money back into savings, or even put more money into your preps, or both. But the first step is getting out of debt. Now, a lot of people say, well, how am I going to do that? Like I said, depending on which method you use, definitely want to use a budget. Actually, fully write down every expense that's coming out of the house. I do it every month to say, even though we're mostly out of debt, every single thing that comes out monthly gets written down. And you go over that and you see what can be cut, what can be taken away, because it's all about income versus expenses. If you have a set amount of income and there's no way to change that, then your expenses need to go down. They say that way, even if it's just temporarily till you get the debt paid off, go through line by line and say, do I really need that? Is that something that could be helping me pay off debt and we can get back to maybe later, or is it essential? Now, keeping your lights on is an essential, unless you have solar, then that'd be great. But keeping your water on, your utility bills are essential. A $150 cable bill is not an essential. We completely got rid of live TV of any form, and strictly just pretty much watch Netflix, which is only like $13 a month, which is a great alternative to that. And so we were able to reduce our entertainment cost by, I want to say we were probably paying close to $150 a month for cable or dish. And it was really cutting into our expenses. So once we got that out, we were able to roll that over to putting more money onto our debts.
Well, at one time we had dish and cable because we had her father living with us. And, for him that was a necessity. But as people move out of the house, as things change, what could still be a necessity is now not. Netflix, I think I've been on Netflix once or twice this month. I don't know about the kids. They've been on, well, Emily's been on Hulu, and we might.
Yeah, she likes it. We do Hulu as well, because that one's only like $8 a month, so that's even cheaper if you wanted to do that route. But even combining just having Netflix and Hulu, that's only about a little over $20 a month, and you get a wide variety of things that you can, entertain yourselves with.
But we might be considering taking Netflix off of the
because that's an extra
payment.
$20 a month we could be putting on other things that are a little bit better.
Yeah.
But going line by line of each and every item and seeing what can be cut, what can be reduced if, say, your internet bill is really expensive. Look around, start shopping around and see if there's somebody that's more competitive. Now, you may not want to switch, but if you call your internet company and say, hey, I got this really great offer from company B, and I'm thinking about switching. Do y'all have any? And they may. I've had it where they've dropped down where I called and went to go cancel to switch to somebody else, and they dropped my bill. And it's weird, but it works. They say they want to keep you as a customer, and so they will get competitive. So even if it's calling and reviewing your car insurance, things may have changed. You may get more, not deductible, the more...
Lower premiums?
Yeah, get a lower premium or a higher deductible to try to balance that out. Like I said, even if it's just temporarily until you get the debt paid off. Now, once the debt is paid off, keep to a budget and make sure most of that budget is going to, your essentials, and make sure before you do any of the luxury items, stuff gets put into savings. Because that is the biggest problem that hits people, is you do not have money set aside for unexpected expenses, say a job loss, or there's a power outage for days and nobody's taking a credit card and you don't have any cash on you at all. And so it's like, it's compounds into problems, but if you take proper precautions and set a little money aside, we do both. We set money into the bank aside for a emergency fund, but we also set cash aside for cash on hand problems that we may need, whether that's in I hate to say a bug out scenario, but there's lots of reasons for a bug out scenario that it doesn't include the end of the world.
Well, I'll just say it. Bear over at Bear Independent did a bug out bag video, and he showed just how much cash he keeps in his bug out bag, and he invited anyone to come and try to take it. That would be the most expensive $1,000 I'd ever try to earn, and no, sir, not gonna do it. I saw that video. I saw the video. I've seen the gun videos, not gonna do it.
But it doesn't have to be a full-blown into the world as you know it for you to need cash and a bug out. Say there is an evacuation or there is a long-term power outage in your area and you're gonna have to go to, say, your bug out location or stay with family and they're not accepting credit cards or you can't withdraw any cash for some reason, the bank is down or whatever. People may still accept cash, no problem, cash king. And having at least, I'd say at least $1,000 on hand. But that's just me. But work up to that. Don't think you have to go, well, I have to go withdraw $1,000 out of the bank right now. Work up to that. Work up to putting $20 here, $20 there, as you can once the debt is paid off. And treat it like a credit card bill. Treat that, putting that $20 a month as a minimal payment for your safety and your peace of mind. After looking at possibly reducing your expenditures, look into possibly increasing your income. There are different ways that you can do this. I know right now I'm actually getting ready to go work overtime. Not because I got put on overtime, but because I requested overtime. The job shop we're working is working quite a bit, but I wasn't put on for overtime this weekend. I went and requested with my supervisor, hey, can I work some overtime this weekend? I get paid time and a half today. I'm not gonna say how much I make, but I get paid time and a half today for just working at
You told how much debt I had. Go ahead and tell how much you're making for no.
Okay, it's not much compared to other people's, but that's extra money in our bank account that for just me working a quick 8-hour shift this evening. That's extra money into our bank account, and it's a little bit money that we can set aside and go, look, this is more money that we can put either on our debts or into our savings, or split it between the two.
It's prep money. It's going into preps. Come on, let's be honest. It's going into preps.
No, it's not. It's paying off my car. He thinks it's preps, so it's paying off my car.
No more car payment. I'm good with that.
That's what we're working towards. We're working to no more car payments, and we've reduced it quite a bit. We did get an expensive car at auction, but we did have to take a loan out for it because we just didn't have that kind of money. But we have, in just 2 years, almost sliced it in half.
Okay.
Which was just like a 5-year car payment. So, but yeah, and that's only making a few extra payments here and there because we were focused on our other debt. But I can throw it out there. I owe about $9,000 on the car, and it should be paid off. This is going up in February. I should have it paid off by March or April.
There you go.
And that's working lots of overtime. That's taking a hit and not, I'd say it, not living extravagantly right now. living within our means, but well below our means even. Not going out to dinner. I don't go to the hair salon or the nail salon and, nothing like that. We don't buy a bunch of expensive things.
Well, you don't do what your coworkers do either.
I don't go out to lunch.
A lot of them run down to.
I brown bag it to work every single day.
Yeah.
Everybody picks on me, but I'll make a really big casserole, or Steve will make it, or somebody will have some quick lunches that I can just grab and go and take to work. Yeah, you go.
Ladies, I cook.
And that reduces a lot of expenses. Yeah, I can't believe these guys that work the same hours as I do can afford going out to eat every single day.
I mean, they're getting. I go out and sit with her during lunch, and I see the bags they're bringing home. And sorry, guys, I know some of you are watching, but you're bringing in $7 and $10 bags of food from Sonic and Cruisers
every day.
4 days a week. That's $40.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much you guys make per week, but
I do. That's ridiculous.
That's a high percentage. I mean, so yeah.
But yeah, so reducing your expenses, but also trying to increase your income. But that also means maybe even going through your house and having a garage sale and get rid of things that you may not use or need anymore, putting them.
Children, sell the children.
That's a thought. He's just joking, YouTube. But going through your house, finding clothing or furniture that you don't use anymore, knickknacks, and having a garage sale, or putting them on a Facebook Marketplace. Let Go is another one, Craigslist, and trying to sell them and taking the money from the sales of those items and putting them straight over into your debt. And so your house has cash value in it that you can go through and liquidate in order to pay down debt.
By the way, if anyone drives a Hummer H3, I have the little airfoil cover for the hood. $40. It's yours. Email me preppingandprogress@gmail.com. Sorry.
Behave. I gotta go to work. Be guys. But finding ways to increase your income, that could also be finding a side job or a temporary second job, just in order to temporarily increase your income until the debt is paid off. People call it, I guess nowadays the kids call it a side hustle, doing something on the side.
Go mow a lawn.
Go mow.
That was my GoFundMe when I grew up. Mow a lawn.
Trimming trees, mowing lawns, handyman stuff if you're good at that. But finding ways to increase your income and reduce your expenses, taking that extra money and putting it towards your debt. Now, people may be shaking their heads and think, what does this have to do with prepping? But it really does. If you look back, there are people in the Great Depression and things like that that lost their livelihoods, they lost their jobs, they've lost their homes, vehicles, everything, because they were in debt. And the banks, even though it was a terrible time, the banks still came for all of it.
Yeah.
Even in 2009, as recent as that, the recession in 2009 and how bad that was, I knew people living out of their vehicles because they could not afford their house payments because they were so ridiculously high. Their car payments were ridiculously high. They had no money set aside to buffer them for the hard times. They were living paycheck to paycheck with absolutely no savings.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to see my prepper friends losing all of the hard work that you've put into your homes and your preps to not being able to have a place to put it. And so debt is a terrible, terrible thing. And as preppers, we really should strive for living as debt-free as possible.
Couple other things, if you'll let me to kind of take the lead. Change bucket.
Oh, yeah. We love our change buckets.
I had a copper brass coin bank that held $50. I've had it since I was 10. About a year ago, I finally completed filling the thing completely. And then I got one of those water cooler jugs and I dumped it all in there and filled it up again. I have no idea how many times I've done that since finally accomplishing the goal of filling it for the very first time. I've also managed to find some silver coins in my going through all my coins, which also brings us to silver and gold.
Yes. Once you're out of debt and you're looking towards financial stability and having a way to protect yourself, say in a financial crisis, and you're worried about saying money is fiat currency and you're worried about the collapse of the dollar or something like that. You're like, I don't want to keep all my money in cash and I don't want to keep it in the bank. I would still keep some because that money is still accepted right now. But definitely once you get out of debt and once you move towards a financial stability, that leaves you open to being able to invest in things like precious metals. I wouldn't advise doing it and going into debt in order to do that because as of right now, like I said, I'd much rather have a house over my head than a gold coin in my pocket. And that's just me personally, and y'all can take it or leave it, but to me, getting rid of the debt first, budgeting puts the money in the savings, and that way you can open up to be able to start investing in things like silver and gold. And that way you can protect yourself even further from a financial crisis.
And I'll tell you what, if I think about it, we'll do a prep talk this next week on silver and gold. The one thing I'm going to say is I believe that silver and gold will be important after a collapse during the rebuilding phase because it will give you a financial basis to restart.
Yeah.
We'll talk about my thoughts during an actual event on Wednesday.
But this is getting really long, and like I said, I've got to go get that money in overtime, so I'm going to go and get out of here. And I hope this was helpful. If y'all have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I'm pretty sure I didn't cover everything. If you were wondering about where I got the snowball, the debt snowball or this debt avalanche, I can tell you in the comment section below. I can't remember off the top of my head what the financial guy's name is that does those. But it really did help us, and I wanted it to help y'all in order for you to focus on your preps a little bit more and being able to be financially stable enough. Because I think one of the biggest comments that I see a lot in the prepper community is, how do I prep on a budget? Well, first, get out of debt. That's how I would prep. And prepare your family and yourself is first, get as much out of debt as absolutely possible. And so I hope this was helpful. If it was, like. If it doesn't, I hate to say dislike, but yes, dislike if you didn't like it. But tell me, don't just dislike and run off. Tell me in the comments below why you didn't think this was a good idea, or why is this terrible, or whatever. And
debate in the comments.
Yeah.
Throw stuff at us.
This is just our
We
personal,
will interact with you.
Yeah,
this
this
is
is
not
just-
this is my opinion, it's the only way. Let's discuss.
Yeah, but I just definitely wanted to give you our thoughts on this, and kind of leave it at that. And so hopefully, if y'all need any more tips or advice, not I'm not advising anybody to do anything, but what we have done.
We provide options. It's up to you to take them.
But hopefully, I love y'all guys, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to y'all later.